Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dias.
I was mentioned directly in the citizens' input. I'd like the opportunity to respond.
We're going to go over the 30 minutes. How
Is
long
there
you got?
is there any other citizens' input?
No.
Okay, if there's no more citizens' input, it's been in practice of this committee to allow members who were mentioned directly the opportunity to respond.
Okay, I was too, so go ahead. You can go first.
Sure. This weekend, I have experienced intimidation and the misuse of official government by Mayor Paul Coogan after I did an interview on the Fall River Reporter. The mayor sent an unknown uniformed man to my house who never said who they were and never presented a card to hand-serve me a letter that never needed to be served and which I already received. He then told me on the phone he would send Fall River police to my house. I do not believe the mayor seriously wants to look into fraud. The mayor has no legal authority to order Fall River police to my house. The mayor also went on to tell me, "This is not going to look good for you. You're treading a very fine line here right now, my friend." And he would keep on pushing after me, along with many other unprofessional comments about my character and my family. The mayor demanded I also issue a retraction. If the mayor wanted to look into fraud with the Fall River police, why didn't Fall River police issue a report on the investigation into DCM? Why did his administration have to be sued by the Herald News for a report into that issue and lose that lawsuit and then fight the order by a judge, wasting more taxpayer money? Why did the mayor tell me not to ask questions on school committee expenditures that we sign off on? Why is the mayor against individual school committee members requesting information from the superintendent? And why is he against an audit of facilities and operations? I'll once again admit, I should have been more clear with my remarks. I learned that. However, I believe the city of Fall River learned over the weekend that we have an authoritarian on the 6th floor, and the mayor's conduct, and I agree with that citizen's input, the mayor's conduct must be stopped. Let's work together to finish this contract and into a fair contract with all our educators and ensure that we have a school department that works for everyone. Thank you.
Again, I don't usually do this, but since, as Mr. Dias explained, he was mentioned in citizens' input, as was I, so I would like to at least give you my half of this. I read an article where a school committee member, two actually, Mr. Aguiar and Mr. Dias, were mentioned in a story in the Fall River Reporter. One mentioned fraud, which I consider very serious, and I called it out when I heard about it. That morning, on behalf of Mayor Coogan in his capacity as chairman, the attached letter is being delivered to you. This was an email we sent to Mr. Dias at 10:36 in the morning. We not only emailed him, we sent him a letter stating that we were going to hand deliver a letter to him, and that's exactly what we did. He subsequently went down to the police station later in the day, but this, I actually have the police report here of what went on that day so that there's no confusion. I'll read it as Mr. Dias read his statement. On January 10th at approximately 2 o'clock, Sergeant Ross Orman, assigned to the Professional Standards Division, became aware of a Facebook post authored by Mr. Dias, a sitting member of the Fall River Public Schools. In that post, Mr. Dias alleged that Mayor Coogan utilized law enforcement to intimidate him by sending officers to the house. The police were naturally concerned. They thought it was their officers. They weren't sure what happened. Upon review of the department records, I confirmed there was no documented response by FRPD to Mr. Dias' residence at 560 or on Ray Street in over a year. I contacted Mr. Dias via telephone to confirm the details, and during our conversation, Mr. Dias described that around 12:45, a male dressed in jeans and a jacket with a badge embroidered on his jean coat approached the residence, spoke with his parents, and handed them an envelope. The individual, who did not identify himself, inquired if Mr. Dias resided there. Mr. Dias acknowledged the individual was not a Fall River police officer and suspected he was a constable. Based on the clarification, I requested that Mr. Dias amend his social media post to avoid further misunderstanding regarding any police involvement. At approximately 3 o'clock, Mr. Dias contacted me again to report his intention to file an intimidation complaint against Mayor Coogan. Later, at about 4:30, Mr. Dias and his mother, Sheila Dias, arrived at the FRPD to formalize the complaint. Sergeant Periosis and I met with them in the station lobby, where we activated our body cameras for the interaction. Mr. Dias and his mother recounted the interaction with the individual who delivered the envelope, which contained a letter from Mr. Coogan on the official letterhead. The letter demanded that Mr. Dias provide evidence to substantiate the allegations of financial fraud against the Fall River Public Schools. I believe Mr. Dias did substantial damage against the Fall River Public Schools when he alleged fraud. We have an excellent finance team. We have a good superintendent, and the money that will go to our teachers is not going to be wasted on anything like fraud. Mr. Dias stated he had already received a copy of the same letter via email earlier in the day and confirmed the mayor's office that the document delivery was executed by a constable. For context, constables make deliveries as bonded service. Mr. Dias further explained that when he contacted the mayor's office earlier in the day to request a discussion with the chief of staff, he instead spoke directly with Mayor Coogan. During the conversation, Mayor Coogan reiterated his request for evidence supporting the allegations. Mr. Dias inquired about the use of law enforcement. The mayor clarified that law enforcement had not been dispatched and added, "not yet." According to Mr. Dias, the mayor explained that his allegations of financial fraud involved criminal implications. He could request an investigation by police detectives. Mr. Dias expressed concern over the statement and felt intimidated by those implications. We advised Mr. Dias that his concerns were understandable, but did not meet the legal criteria for criminal intimidation under Chapter 268, Section 13B. For an action to constitute criminal intimidation, it must be intended to obstruct, impede, or delay a criminal investigation. The potential involvement of police detectives in an investigation of alleged crimes does not fill that requirement. Sergeant Periosis and I explained the legal standard to Mr. Dias and his mother, emphasizing that no further police investigation was warranted. Both were advised to pursue open and constructive communication with Mayor Coogan to address differences. Mr. Dias and his mother acknowledged our explanation and were informed they could reach out further if they needed any assistance. They then departed the police station. On Saturday morning, we did a show on SAR, and Mr. Dias called in. We had an exchange, and he said we were under investigation. I explained to him there was no investigation because nobody did anything wrong. When you hear one member on this committee, anyone, make an allegation of fraud, we take it extremely serious. We have a mayor in prison. In the way past, we had school committee people go to jail for fraud. I take it seriously. I respect the process. If Mr. Dias had said he believes there's waste, he would have never heard from me. He's allowed to make his opinion until he says criminal activity is going on in the schools and he should identify it. And that's all this was about. He was very uncomfortable and he had no concern to identify that. Our finance team does a great job, and I do not believe, as Mr. Dias said Saturday morning, there is any fraud in the Fall River Public Schools at this time. Thank you.